what's wrong with just being a mum? And women are there and they're kind of wanting to embrace motherhood, but then beating themselves up about just being a mum. And it's a massive job. And that's the thing where we're talking about undervalue. Like it's, you know, we're there kind of working really late at night, trying to do all these other things and completely torn all the time. Because as a society, you feel like it's not enough and people are saying, well, what do you do all day? And it's really a dilemma, I think, for women.
Yeah, a mental and emotional dilemma, isn't it? Yeah.
They're pretty fed up. Certainly in terms of the mothers that I see and coach, a lot of them are incredibly overworked. They've almost set themselves, and what my biggest concern is that a lot set themselves up for failure by the very structure of they're still the primary carer, they're not getting a lot of support, and they're trying to launch a new business with very little money. So that those kind of things almost position a mother to fail or to find it a lot harder than other people going into business.
Yeah.
There's a lot of obstacles.
Yeah, interesting. This leads me to my next question. I want to talk about the taboo of motherhood. Like, I see, obviously, Facebook is being very sneaky and everything is popping up at the moment is all about motherhood and baby stuff. And I'm seeing so much stuff online. There's lots of chatter, there's lots of talk. You know, you've got, I hate this term, but the mummy bloggers who are leading this movement of sharing everything. But what's not being said, particularly not so much about parenting, but about being a mum in business?
My concern is really, and what we're not talking about, is how bad our superannuation looks. We've had a break from work, and then we've gone into a startup where we're not paying us. A lot of mums in business and a lot of women in business are not paying themselves, or if they are, it's very little. So, you know, as a result of that, they've got very little superannuation, and that's certainly something that's not spoken about. I also think, again, we don't talk about the money, we don't talk about the figures, we're not talking about when things are going bad, because a lot of us are doing peer-to-peer mentoring or networking, and they're keeping up the facade of everything's going great when they're not. And they don't have that kind of support of where they can go and talk to someone when it's not.
Yeah, I definitely agree with all of those. And then I think there's also the personal kind of side of it. I don't think women talk about how bad their sex lives are. You know, because something's got to give. Like, honestly, I spoke to a friend yesterday who literally, he and his partner both have a business, and they said they haven't had sex for about 5 years.
What? Oh.
No, I'm serious. Like, I'm serious. Like, people, you're like ships in the night. There are so many pressures, and you're kind of juggling so many things. And I think we really need to start focusing on relationships as well. You know, not just the children and not just the business, but all that other stuff that gets neglected as a result of trying to juggle, you know, everything.
Fascinating. Yeah, and you talked about before how, like, the relationship for you is your third priority.
It's the third, and I've actually been shooting a documentary about our experience, and I've interviewed a couple, and number one was their relationship, and I think that's what I absolutely loved about them, because everything else flowed because of that. They had so much communication and kind of passion still, and I think it's really easy to lose the passion for each other and to kind of be sitting at breakfast and kind of not having anything to talk about other than your children or your business, and that's really sad, I think, when you get to that point. And it sneaks up on you. Like, you know, my friends who I was talking to about their lack of a sex life, which is nothing people really talk about, but it just sneaks up on you suddenly, and you're just so exhausted you want to spend any spare time you have in your pyjamas watching a DVD or something. That feels like a chore for a lot of people. That's definitely something women don't talk about, and men don't talk about it.
Yeah.
So
Wow. Fascinating. So what do you think, like, what for you is, like, how would you get out of that? What's your suggestion to make it a priority relationship? I think you need to, well, we've just started date nights once a week, and it's taken us 7 years to get to that point. You know, I think you need to have scheduled time in together if that's what you want to kind of value and kind of keep going. Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just so easy to lose the intimacy with your partner. So that's personally what I think doesn't get talked about at all.
Yeah, I definitely don't say anything.
And hormonal, I think having babies changes you hormonally as well. So.
So you mean like how it impacts you mentally and emotionally? Is that what you mean? Or
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think people don't talk about self-medication. Like I've spoken to women who talk about taking alcohol to the park when their kids are playing, or being on Valium or antidepressants, and it's like way more common than you think. Like I was quite shocked talking to a friend about it. But I think there are a lot of women struggling, and they feel like by talking about it they're a failure, and they don't feel comfortable saying it. You know, they don't want to say how depressing it is or how they've lost their own identity. So I think trying to find the balance and having time for self is super, super important.
So I was working for these big sort of bureaucracies, and I've always been working on an issue that I'm passionate about. But I think in that space, I also kind of had this armour. In a way, it was that I kept my professional and my sort of personal worlds very separate. In the professional, I was, trying to be perfect and trying to do everything, and kind of had this kind of superwoman facade, I guess, in a way. And to be honest, what happened is I had 3 children, also under 3, and very quickly, and was working at a sort of very high level, traveling a lot internationally, and basically burnt out and collapsed, and had a very sudden, I guess, realization that those 2 worlds kind of collided in a way that was totally unsustainable. And that really challenged this idea that somehow the armour was actually making me resilient. I think it was the opposite was true. Yeah. This kind of trying to create this image of being superwoman and of doing everything and being perfect and looking perfect and having it all as a woman is just, to be honest, kind of bullshit. And I realised that actually what resilience required was bringing those 2 parts of myself together into a whole kind of human being. And it was okay to be vulnerable, it was okay to fail, it was okay to struggle. And since doing that, I then resigned, moved back, started my own organisation. And like you, I honestly feel that I am much more authentic. I've brung those 2 worlds together, and I also feel like more resilient, more at peace, happier than I ever have before. And it's just kind of this revelation that actually, for me, I think the armour and resilience are actually do not mix together.
No,
yeah.
I've got a similar vein. So I had kept work and family quite separate until I started this tech startup, which is now almost 3 years old. And it was just not sustainable. So what I have done, and given that my business is in America, I spend half the time there, half the time here. I've got 5 children, so 4 boys and 1 girl. So a lot to manage. And so keeping those, it's crazy, keeping those things 2 separate. And that my mask was probably, okay, I'm the professional, I'm the entrepreneur, I'm successful. I didn't mention the children too much. So over the last couple of years, I realised it was just I was not able to achieve anything unless these 2 were integrated. So what I had to do first and foremost is just throw out all traditional models of parenting. I'm a single mother too, to throw that in. I know. So it's just like throw this parenting as we know it out the door for we women entrepreneurs and rethink it. So my children are now very much part of my business. They travel with me, they come to my speaking events normally. If I've got a challenge, so I've got 2 teenagers, the bottom 2 are teenagers now, both of them going through teen angst. So I sometimes take them out of school and take them to work with me so I can be with them and sort of monitor them and help and support them until they get back on track. So my way of developing resilience in being able to do business and mothering and parenting and be a woman is to same thing as the other women, integrate these 2 things, but throw out traditional models of what's expected for us to do as a mother. So for my kids, I've just started my teenage girl, Indigo, she's 15 at a new school, and one of their policies is don't take your kids out of school. Like, you've got to give 3 weeks notice. And I'm like, it's fucking not going to happen. I'm just like, if I want to take her I take her out? Because she'll come with me, she'll learn about
Whatever's
running a
going on.
business, all of that. So one of the really important things for all the women and men to know, I think, is the traditional models that we think about raising our parents, it's not for us in the entrepreneur space. We can create our own models of parenting.
So you've just reset the framework for me, because I'm a single parent. I only have one though, so I don't even.
No,
I don't even compete.
Okay, look, here's a little lesson, right? So 1 child, difficult, life changes. 2 children, a little bit difficult. 3, 4, 10, no different. There's like, you either have 2 or you have 10. It's no different. You can have as many as you like in the room. There's economies of scale. It's absolutely no different.
I'm cool with 1. I'm fine with 1. But it's interesting, because when I started my own business, one of the things that I wanted was to be a digital nomad and immerse myself in communities all around the world so that I could learn and actually empower those people to make change in their lives. But I wanted to take my son and share that with him, and he's only 6 years old. And I've started to do that around Australia. And I feel guilty when I take him out of school, but I won't feel guilty anymore. I'm doing exactly
seriously, please do not feel guilty. What an amazing experience is a little boy to see his mother working.
Well, the other thing I keep reading is a lot of these successful entrepreneurs now do exactly that with their children.
Right.
So they travel and they spend 3 months in one country and 3 months. And I mean, not everyone can do that, but they talk about the learning experience and the development of their children, and the resilience and acceptance of diversity is far greater than it is a child sitting in school doing theoretical work.
So one last question. What about the attitude towards mums in business? What have you experienced? Have you experienced positive and negatives? Any kind of comments people have made to you about being a mum running your own business that you want to share?
Yeah, look, I think that we're fantastic networkers. We're great collaborators, and that provides us with a lot of great opportunities to work with other mums in business. So I think that that's really on a positive. I probably there's a little bit of negativity around the term mumpreneur. I find some men that are not yet parents can sometimes lack a bit of understanding, but on the whole, not an issue. They're not my target market, so it's not something that I guess hits me.
Yeah. What about you?
For me, I think it's difficult sometimes because you're working from home, and so it's hard to focus. And people don't take you as seriously as you would if you're going to an office. I think sometimes, it's just kind of, there's a bit of a lack of value placed on home business versus actually going to work.
I would agree.
Yeah, I mean, I face that without even having kids. So it's like, oh, you're working at home. Oh, let's catch up for a coffee. I'm like, oh, actually, I have to work. Yeah. So that's it. Thank you so much for sharing about motherhood and scaring me a little bit, but we would.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Thank you.